Hi, if you or your children are suffering because of your relationship with your ex partner, because it's stressed or strained, or maybe they're just not a nice person, this show is for you. Welcome to the High Conflict Co-Parenting Podcast with Brooke Olson and Charlie Jewett. Enjoy another episode now. Okay, everybody, welcome to the High Conflict Co-Parenting Podcast with Charlie Jewett and Brooke Olson. Or Brooke, you're the master. Should I put your name first? Is it Brooke and Charlie?
Sure.
Man of many words. Sure. Oh, we're excited about this. Brooke has some incredible information to share. We're going to talk a little bit on this introductory show, episode 000. We're going to talk a little bit about how we met, who we are, why Brooke is worth listening to. He's had an incredible effect on my life. And then what this podcast is for. What's the mission? Who can it help? Why are we doing this? And who should listen and when you can listen. So why don't we start, Brooke, talking a little bit. You're probably much more interesting than me. Let's talk a little bit about how'd you get here? I mean, I know this is a passion for you. I see your schedule. I've been in your classes, read your book, had you work in my life as a mediator, lots of different ways that I've seen you. I mean, you're passionate about this. How'd you get here? Did you wake up, come out of the womb, and you're like, I want to help people?
Well, really, almost, Charlie. I look back on this question many times as I've been going through this, and it's like, really, how did I get here? The short story on that is I went through a high conflict divorce about 20 years ago.
Oh.
And when I was in the process of this, I was looking around and I was just noticing how few resources there were that were available, and also that this idea of high conflict was really not in very many people's attention. I was stuck in the middle of stuff. I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand the court process and how it actually makes things worse and screws things around in ways that you can't get your head around. But also that the people that were in the system itself really did not understand the pathology, the psychology behind all of this. So I kind of slammed on the brakes. I had a passion for psychology anyway. So I just started to dig in and said, okay, why is this? And as I was digging into this, I was reflecting back on the marriage that I had, because I had spent 20 years with somebody that had three of the access to personality disorders that come up in high conflict divorce cases and custody cases all of the time. So I started to really get my head around what that behavior was and how it translated into the high conflict sequencing. But even beyond that, I took a little deeper look at it, and I had this blind spot that I really wasn't aware of. And the truth of the matter is when I really started to play in this arena, this is my history. This is where I came from. I went through this as a child. My parents were in a high conflict divorce. I was kept from my father for a period of years while this was going on. Jeez. And I was in the middle of this. So I got a reorientation to really what was going on for the kids in this as well, and I had an adult perspective to it. So I was able to really start to play around and bring this into more clarity.
And people are not in high conflict divorces. Like, being hurt or being angry doesn't cause high conflict. I read an amazing article about how most of the court cases really aren't even legal matters. They're psychological or mental illness issues where they end up in a court where that's not even their job. Right? There's something going on here where you mentioned the personality disorders and these type of things. This is not just angry people. Somebody, one or both, have something happening usually, right, in the area of mental illness or something. Agreed?
Absolutely. That's absolutely true. And the truth of the matter is that really the vast majority, 70% of the people that are going through the court system get this done without going to trial, without having extended cases and spending a lot of money. They're able to work it out. And the reason they're able to work it out is they're able to process their anger, look at what's important in terms of the children, and make good decisions. It's only when that there's something that is in the way of that normal process that this doesn't occur. And these are the people that typically are in a personality disorder, an addiction, or some form of codependent relationship. And these are the distortions that create the high conflict cycle.
Now you're not just a divorcee. I'm not sure how you say that. Maybe if you're on a, I don't know, romantic mood, you say divorcee, right? Snails and divorcees. You're just not a guy that went through a divorce who has a passion. You've taken training. You do class. Tell them who you are in the world and what you do now. If we never did this podcast, what were you already doing, and how do you help the world in this area?
Well, I teach a high conflict parenting class that is it's court ordered, not court ordered. I've done teacher trainings for people across the country. There's an opportunity for people that want to know more about this to come in and take a teacher training and teach this themselves. That's part of what I do. I am a mediator. I do a lot of mediations, mostly around parenting plans. I am a divorce coach. I'm a custody coach. So I work with attorneys to help them with their strategies, to help manage their clients' expectations, and to really streamline the process so people don't step on their own toes as they're trying to get through this problem. Most of my training is in transpersonal communication and trauma resolution. So I really bring a perspective forward of how this affects somebody's nervous system, how they can process through their nervous system, and really get out of the reaction and into the responsive mode of really being able to do things in a different manner.
Now I've seen you in action in a lot of different ways. Can I switch over to who I am and what I do in the world?
Absolutely.
You sure you don't want to talk about yourself some more, buddy?
Nah, I did enough of that.
My turn. Hand off. I'll take the baton from here. Come on now. I just need an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Take two, Charlie.
No problem. Take two and call you in the morning. I met Brooke through my own divorce, which had some conflict, to say the least, right? And Brooke was the one assigned, of all the people that could have been chosen, was the one assigned as the best mediator for my parenting plan. So I got to see Brooke. I got to see you in action. Doing that, thought you did a fantastic job. Liked you. Also attended. I think my girlfriend and I probably came to more than 9 classes because we were junkies for a little bit. We came to at least the full 9 classes for the whole high conflict relationship class you do, which you don't have to be here in California to attend, because the classes I attended, you had people on video, right? Attending the class through video, which means people can be, this podcast is going to go to all different countries, like all the countries, but people can be in different countries. They can be in any state. Divorce is not limited to California, although we probably have a lot, but they can be anywhere and still attend the classes I attended through the video. Agreed?
That's correct. That's correct. As a matter of fact, I've got a teacher training coming up, and I'm going to be doing a training with one person that is in England currently. So yes, it's available everywhere.
Perfect. So I've seen Brooke at work as a mediator. I've attended your class, thought it was absolutely fantastic, read your book, love your book, and have actually used some of your other services as far as my own cases, and just found you to be someone worth listening to, which is why I was interested in doing this podcast with you. And professionally, I'm the host of the Renovating Retirement podcast, which is different because retirement is specific. I can't do retirement planning for someone in England or India, Brooke, right? So I have this sort of location bound one industry podcast, and that's my job. So I do the best I can. But this is really intriguing to me because divorce is a worldwide epidemic, or conflict is worldwide, which means we can reach so many people. And what I say a lot of times in my own business, what are the chances that the greatest financial advisor in the entire world happens to live in your backyard? So you can't depend on that. Go to somebody's office model. You need to work through phone, Skype or Zoom meetings. You need to work virtually. Same thing's true, even more so. What are the chances? Now we're looking at every country. What are the chances that the best possible person to help you understand your high conflict relationship happen to be in your country, in your state, your region, your town? We're going to see them in person. That's not realistic anymore, is it, Brooke?
It really isn't. And there's not, amazingly enough, there isn't a lot of people that really understand this stuff in a way. And also, interestingly enough, I've been researching this for 17 years, playing with this, looking at this, and I don't find very many people that have a program, and certainly not the list of services that we're able to offer in all of this.
And I don't either. And you mentioned something in your introduction. So I'll close my introduction like this. I'm not a therapist. I'm not trained, although I have a love for psychology and all this. I'm not trained in these areas. Brooke is the expert. My role is going to be someone who understands this, having gone through it and still going through it, having absorbed and consumed a lot of your materials. I'm going to be interviewing you for whatever topic and extracting and kind of teeing you up to give the best possible teachings you can and to share your life's work with people and invite them to come in deeper and in any of the ways that you can help them. But there's one thing you mentioned in your introduction that was shocking for me, and I think is worth talking about. Why don't people just, why isn't the court system enough? Why would they need any help from you when there's their attorney and then there's the judge? Because don't the attorney and the judge, aren't they obviously trained for everything someone would need to have like an amazing, smooth experience? And aren't they like, don't they have all the time in the world to spend on every family to get everything perfect?
Yeah, you would hope so, but that's really not true. These are attorneys. Their training is in the law, and this is what they do. They know the law. They're not psychologists. They don't study psychology. They don't get what this is. And judges are attorneys. That's what they are, with a robe. And again, they are not trained in this arena, and they're running by the seat of their pants. And they are dependent on experts to give them information that they can look at and try to make good decisions from. The problem with that, and it's an amazing problem to me, because I have in my training psychologists that come to me to get trained in this arena, people with their degrees in psychology, and they don't understand the workings of the court and how it exacerbates this problem, how the stress of this process brings the absolute worst components out in these personalities. And they are baffled that this complex, and it's not just that we have somebody with personality traits and disorders and addiction problems that are in the matter of this. We've got a system that makes it exponentially worse.
Yeah.
Because they don't make decisions. They've only got, like you said, Charlie, a short period of time to take a glimpse of this and shoot from the hip and hope they hit the target. And most of the time they don't.
And isn't it worse? Isn't it worse? Let me jump in for you a second. Isn't it worse? I think you said something like, and we'll talk more in another episode, but something like the judge has like an average of 20 minutes, you know what I mean, with each case to make life decisions on who gets the kids and how much time you get to spend with your kids. Isn't there an exacerbating problem that if there's a personality disorder on one of the sides of this relationship, so you wouldn't be in a high conflict divorce if there wasn't somebody who was struggling, because two rational people just go, well, what's the law? Oh, darn it, I don't really like that, but if it's the law, let's do it, and you're done. If
Right.
there is one side with a personality disorder, and forgive the language, but your psycho ex looks really good for about 20 minutes. In 20 minutes, they actually look like a great parent, when the reality is they're like obsessive, controlling, breaking all kinds of laws. But in the very short time, the way the court system is set up, they can just look like an incredibly caring parent, can't they?
Right. They're really good at disguising what's really going on in the background. And what we have to be able to do is see them in a longer piece and under stress to really start to see what's going on. And this is where the psychological evaluations and some of the other things that get ordered come in. But even within those, that has to be interpreted by the judge into an order. And again, they don't get it. They're still shooting from the hip because they don't have the knowledge base.
So I think one of the greatest things we could bring to people, because I needed this and didn't have it, And you know this. You heard me screaming my face off on the phone with you one time, right? Because I'm like, yeah, I don't understand the cards, right?
What do you
Because
mean what?
it's so clear. Like I see it so logically. I don't know how, but one of the things that we can bring to people through these podcasts is whether you like it or not, you need to see clearly what the court is and what it isn't, right? How
Right.
much time they have and how much they don't, and what to expect. And when anger comes from unmet expectations, at least some anger, right?
Right. Right.
So,
And fear.
and fear. So don't know what it is and what it isn't. So you're not expecting something that it's not. I mean, honestly, I expected to go to court and be able to speak and share and be heard. And I'm good at communication and debate. And so I thought I'm going to be fine. And the reality is, I was told basically by everybody I worked with, like, be quiet, don't have emotions, and let me do all the talking.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm right. And then it wasn't going the way I wanted, and I was freaking out. Right. So, all right, let's talk about the mission for the podcast. Right. You're an awesome guy. I'm an awesome guy. That's fine. But what are we trying to accomplish here? We could be talking about anything. We could talk about marshmallows or the history of cheese. Right. That'd be fun. But we're not. We're going to talk about high conflict relationships and co-parenting, because that's where it really becomes a problem. Like a high conflict relationship, you just go, I don't like you anymore. I don't like you anymore. Bye. And it's over. When there's kids, it's the co-parenting that keeps you with someone that you don't like anymore and might hate, right? That's the problem, the high conflict co-parenting. So what is the mission of this podcast? What would you like to accomplish for our listeners?
Well, I'd really like to deliver something that helps people get their head around what this really is, so they can shake the flypaper off. This is a process that when you get stuck in it, it's literally like touching a piece of flypaper. And the more you try to get away, the more you get enmeshed in it. So the first podcast that we're going to go into, and we'll talk about this in the next piece, is this idea of how to disconnect or disengage from all of this. This is a really bizarro world that you're entering into, or you're in if you're listening to these podcasts. And it doesn't go linear. It doesn't track rationally. And you have to be able to get your head around that and begin to think as the other person thinks, and be able to get ahead of the curve so they can do that. And the idea of these podcasts is to give information so people cannot step into the vortex of this high conflict and get lost in it, but to be able to predict what's going to happen, understand the cycle, and to step back and take charge of their situation. This is a place where personal responsibility is the only way out. The courts aren't going to fix it. Your therapist isn't going to fix it. The people that you're looking outside of yourself are not the answer. The answer is an internal peace. And the sooner that you realize this, the sooner that you get the tools to pick up the strategies that are coherent and cohesive enough to guide you through this, this is what we're trying to deliver in these podcasts. We want to teach the principles of mindful reflection. So when you can look at what your cause is in this, you take that out of the equation, and it becomes easier for the people outside to see where the problems are.
Now let's talk, just because this makes so much sense, let's talk about golf and dancing for a second, okay?
Sure.
How you like that intro? It's like everybody knows where we're going now. It sounds like, because you're a coach, it sounds like a lot of other things, you can't just say, let me do what feels natural, but you have to have coaching do what feels unnatural, make yourself do it, right? Until it becomes, like, for instance, a golf swing. I'm not a golfer, but I know a lot of golfers. A golf swing, if you do what feels natural and swing more like a baseball bat or whatever, right? Like, that's not going to work. If you dance in the way that feels best on your body, wherever your spine is at that time. Golf coaches, from what I've heard, like they're telling you to do this swing and hold the club in a way that just doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? Or to dance and sort of stand up and your shoulders go back and you hold the broomstick or whatever, and the rise and fall. Wouldn't it fall under that category? Whereas, man, if you do this without a coach, it's not going to go well, or at least not as well as it could. But if you let somebody share things with you that you wouldn't have thought of, because everybody's in one divorce or maybe their second or third, but they don't get the benefit of having looked at hundreds or thousands of different divorces like you have, right?
Right, right, right.
And I think
And
all coaching, that's why someone is beneficial. Even in my business world, when I go to pick a product for somebody, I use a company that runs like 6,000 comparisons a month because I'm only one retirement planner. I only can do what I do. You know what I mean? So isn't it that same kind of a thing that you've seen so many of these, and people need to do something that's not necessarily natural and think about it in a way that's different, that like it's not logical, you said, right?
it's very illogical. And I think for somebody to realize that they're in this, the moment they come into the realization that they're in a high conflict custody battle, because this is virtually all about custody in these podcasts at least, that they have to get a coach. They have to get somebody that can really walk them through the process and be willing to listen to things that don't make sense, and to remove their ego about their parenting and start to listen to what people are listening to. Because if they don't get that, they're going to bury themselves. And I see this stuff go on for years. And if somebody's going to be in a high conflict situation, there's kind of a minimum to this. And I think it's going to last about 2 to 2.5 years. And that is frightening, but it's a reality. And I think that you know this personally, Charlie, in your world. I think when you entered this thing that you're going, we've got nothing in money. The kids are this, like we're going to go
6
50,
months, 6 months, baby, done.
and we're going to be done. But what you didn't look at, and I think that this is an important piece, and again, we'll pull into this more, but I was given this phrase when I started this 20 years ago: as went the marriage, so goes the divorce. And this is a piece that everybody has to hear. And if you would have looked at that, Charlie, and said, hey, I've been married to this woman for 15 years, and this is how it went. Why would I think it's going to be different when I divorce her? You would have done things very differently.
Yes.
But like you, when I went through this, I was in conversation with my soon-to-be ex, and we were working this stuff out just like you did. We were in mediation. We had everything laid out. We were ready to sign the documents, and then it all blew up. Then we went to court, and we played this game out for another 2.5 years.
Jeez.
And there was no reason for it. But this is the pathology. These are the things that happen. And again, back to the mission for these podcasts is to get my listeners, our listeners, to wake up to this at the earliest possible moment so we can reduce the pain and anguish and cost for them as they go through this process.
And here's the good news. I just finished 4 weeks of classes that I needed to take for my own divorce. And, some of it was hard to listen to and boring or whatever, but some of it was amazing. You always eat the meat and spit out the bones, right? Mm-hmm. It only takes one parent. Like, the hope for your children is not that your crazy ex becomes a great person. The hope for your children is that you be the best possible mom or dad you can be, and you can have an incredible effect. My mom said that without any training before I entered all this. And then I started taking classes and started taking your stuff. And I'm hearing all the experts saying the same thing, which is, our listeners are not hopeless at all. And we're going to be able to help them be the best they can be. And it will have a great effect on the children, even if the ex doesn't change ever. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. And I would take it another step. As the listeners take in this material and start to take on the responsibility of being that parent, I would go to the place where they are the only hope for these children. And if they don't step up, if they don't understand this, if they don't educate themselves beyond this material, but into just really understanding what parenting is about and take parenting classes and extend themselves into that realm, their children are going to be going through this on some way, shape, or form as adults in their lives. And that is a hell of a thing to condemn them to.
So we're going to help people break this generational sort of repeating pattern. You said your parents went through this, so did mine. You went through it, so did I. We're not unique. That's very common. We're going to help them break it. Let me give a short list of things that I know we're going to cover. We're certainly going to cover how to not be a slave anymore and be able to disengage. Somebody writes you a text or a nasty email. You don't have to. You're not a slave. You don't even have to answer if you don't want to. We're going to be covering software that people can use, right? How to use software to track all conversations so it's admissible in court. Actually, some of the software even forces the other side to rewrite things if they're being nasty, right?
Correct.
Software for tracking all expenses. We're going to cover parenting schedules, holiday schedules, drop-offs. What if they're late? What if they're being a booger? When to go to court and when not to, right? When is it appropriate to actually file an ex parte or take them in or take them back to court or readjust your schedule? How to handle email, how to handle text, how to be peaceful at all times. We're going to have interviews with people, probably people that are having successes and people that are having struggles for sure. And then if I were to pick, if I said to you, my favorite thing I've ever learned from you is, and I want to make sure we talk about this at some point, at least in one episode. Do you know what it is? I don't know if I've told you enough, but do you know what my favorite thing I've ever learned from you is?
Disengage.
Well, disengage is probably certainly the one I use the most. It was parallel parenting versus co-parenting.
Right.
So everything our listeners are hearing, if my experience is similar, everything that they're hearing is that you need to be a co-parent, you need to be a good co-parent, you guys need to co-parent. It's a business relationship, just blah, 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 blah. And then they're trying to do this, and it's all very logical. They're trying to do this with somebody who's probably got personality disorders or at least being a booger, right? So how do you co-parent with somebody that won't play? Or how do you do the tango with somebody that won't even get off the bench? You can't do it, right? So you're the one that brought to my world the other option, which is it doesn't have to be co-parenting. It can be parallel parenting. And man, did I get a lot from that. So I can't wait for people to see that. Now, who should be listening? Like the person who hears this introduction, right? It's appropriate for somebody to listen to this episode 000 and go, well, that's not for me, because it takes time to listen to podcasts. Who should listen? Like when somebody hears this and we say we're going to help these people, who's the person that will benefit the most from what we've got planned for them?
Well, I think that the people that should be listening to this is absolutely anybody that is entering into a divorce with children, or that knows somebody that is entering into a divorce with children. You were mentioning the parallel parenting model, which is really the part of the stalwart of what so much of the management for this stuff is. And it's a do no harm model. And that means, to me, that's where we start. And if you don't understand that and everybody's cramming this idea of co-parenting down your throat, their possibility of getting into trouble is exponentially higher.
Right.
And the truth about parallel parenting is it's got a co-parenting component. It just gives everybody autonomy.
Right.
And, so to get this stuff out front, anybody that is in this arena, that is entering it, has been entered in it for any length of time, or is contemplating getting into it. Remember, as with the marriage, so goes the divorce comment. If somebody is thinking about this, they should get educated in this arena. They have to have more than one set of templates to draw from. And if all they can draw from is you have to co-parent, or this is what's going to happen, the attorneys don't tell us very much, right? They take our money.
Yeah.
They tell you what they're going to do for you, but they don't tell you what to do. And people need to take the reins of this. They need to take control of this and guide the professionals the way they need to be guided. And without good information, they're going to end up in this for years. So I would say anybody that are in those categories are the people that need to come.
So let me put in the center of that, and then we'll circle out a little bit. The center of this is the person who's in a high conflict relationship due to co-parenting. They're sharing kids with somebody, whether they were married or not. They have children together. They're not together anymore. So the kids are with them some, or with the other parent some, or there's parental alienation where one of them's stealing the kids from the other, whatever. That's in
Correct.
the center. That's the obvious one. The next ring out from that, I believe, would be the new girlfriend or boyfriend of that person, the mother of that person, a person who has someone in their life going through this, because we're going to help them to be a good friend. Because all conversation in some sense is therapy, whether you're good at it or not. They taught me that in nouthetic counseling training, that therapy is just conversation, right? We're always talking to each other and counseling each other. So the friend of the family member of someone going through it. And then let's circle out from that, the therapist of someone. Maybe this isn't what they do professionally, but they're doing the ongoing weekly therapy to help someone who's hurting and going through it. The more they know, the better. I'd probably take a very unique attorney, but a very unique attorney who truly cares. Could be listening, and judges, therapists, judges, and attorneys, family members, or someone going through this themselves, a concerned parent or loved one. All of them are going to benefit from learning these things and being able to apply them, right?
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that in, Charlie, because this does need to be this information does need to be heard from professionals that are dealing with this, that don't have a grasp of what's really going on, and they're looking at this as, why isn't this getting better, or why is this getting worse? Absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, so we're going to release this. We're going to plan on doing weekly on Friday mornings, right?
Correct.
And I would like my message for the world, because I'm 2 years into podcasting myself. Why am I participating in another podcast? Yes, I'm a guest on a lot of podcasts, but why am I adding a second show that takes my time and has nothing to do with my industry? It is because this is information that I believe in. This is a person that I believe in. This is a message, and the offerings, the things that Brooke makes available to the world, are not only needed, but they work. They have good effect in people's lives. They're going to help mothers and fathers and anybody that listens to these. So I want this to be out. And Brooke, you heard me say it the last time we talked. I'm like, let's get these 10 out into the world and see what good happens, and then we'll go from there, right? So we're going to get these first 10 out as fast as we possibly can. But there is a ton of amazing information coming. Look next week for episode 1, number 1, baby. On my podcast, I always sing, go one, baby, 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 one, just because it's fun. I don't know why. So we're going to have episode 1 coming out, which is disengage, disengage, disengage. If you had to pick one tool, and that's all you could learn, you had some learning limitation, and you could only learn one tool, this one would go a long way, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. And this is the what I like to say about this is, this is the core of what I teach, and everything that I teach is just commentary on this.
And is it fair to say, I know this is my language, not yours, but is it fair to say that if you're going to leave someone, divorce, break up, leave them fully, divorce them fully, break up fully, we need to break our listeners' addiction to wanting to keep responding or to stay in the fights or the conversations? It's that person that wants to stay in relationship with you. You don't have to respond to any of those texts or emails. And we're going to teach you about that. You don't even have to read them. You can have a surrogate reader, someone else to take the abuse first and just give you the nuts and the bolts. But we want to break that addiction to, and we all feel it. I feel it. Okay. I got a nasty text today. I feel it, but because of what you've taught me, I didn't respond. I just sort of, whatever. I don't care if she feels that way. We're going to help that on episode number 1. Just how do you disengage, disengage, disengage? And that'll go a long way. So look forward to episode 1 coming up. And then you ready to rock, Brooke? You ready to do this and change the world?
I'm ready to go, Charlie. Thanks for your participation in all of this. I truly appreciate it.
All right, no problem. Brooke and Charlie from the the High Conflict Co-Parenting podcast. Let's get it going. Brooke, people don't have to wait until Friday mornings to get more content. If this is something that's helpful for them, right? This isn't the first time you've broadcast anything or record anything or put anything out there in the world. What are the other ways people can get the help more aggressively or speed up their recovery process? What materials are available for people right now?
Well, I've written a book called The Black Hole of High Conflict, and it's available on Amazon and Kindle.
Great.
And everything that we're talking about is really compressed and put into there. So this is a really good starter place to get in and get your mind working and to see what these concepts are about, and how to start to apply them. The other place that I think that is valuable is to go to our website and look at some of the blog articles that I've written. Those are available there as well. They go into some of these other arenas, and that's at www.highconflict.net. So the book, the website are also really good places to get the material. And also, we have classes. We have high conflict diversion program classes that you can get into and get some one-on-one help with this as well.
And you know me, I'm aggressive. Whatever I want to become good at or learn, I find someone who's good at it and pay them and hire them and shorten my learning curve. What if somebody just wants your help? Somebody says, Brooke has this information. He's good at something I'm not good at yet, and I want to work with him. Do you have any type of coaching or consultations or anything like that?
Absolutely, I do. I do one-on-one coaching for custody cases. I help people get ready for family court services. If you've got that in your community, I work with attorneys and clients to help them with managing and strategically setting them up to have more successful cases as well.
And how do they reach out? You want them to just go to the website or email or phone, or what's the best way for them to reach out, raise their hand, and say, I need some help?
They can email me. My direct email is brooke@highconflict.net. That's BROOK at highconflict, HIGH, conflict.net.
Perfect. That's everything everybody would need to get some help, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Brooke.